liking it. I'm liking the
right?
the nice
Black keys, baby. Yep.
Welcome back to Pints Politics. It's been 2 weeks since we recorded.
Yeah, we got lazy with the holiday, man.
Speaking of lazy, we're out by the fire today.
Yeah.
And it's a nice chilly day.
It is. It's a
It's
good
been
it's a good December afternoon.
yes.
Here in South Carolina. It's not too chilly, but
It's chilly, but the sun's out.
it tells you it's Christmasville time.
Yeah. Yes. Christmasville was great today too, by the way.
Yeah.
Well,
So
let's go ahead and thank our sponsors first of all. First and foremost, Comer Distributing.
yeah, man. Enjoying a good beer.
Yeah, this is actually a really good one. This is the Sycamore Christmas Cookie.
Yeah.
Um,
I think they do this every year.
yeah.
And release a special can and all that kind of stuff. It's a winter amber, that's what they call it, but it's a
We've had quite a few Sycamores.
Yeah, that's a good brewery altogether.
Yeah.
For sure. Mountain Candy, Southern. They have like a blonde ale that's a Southern Girl. That's a green can and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for Comer Distributing for helping sponsor this podcast.
Episode 41.
Is it 41?
41.
Man,
Getting up there.
I know, man. So
Still ain't as old as you, but
Yeah, Actually, speaking of, thank you. I did celebrate my 48th birthday over the holiday as well. So yeah, man. How'd you spend your holiday? Did you stay here or were you?
traveling
Were you?
as usual. Matter of fact, I gotta even think about where all I was.
I mean, but I'm just saying for Thanksgiving, I went down to Charleston, Mount Pleasant area, and
Oh no, I stayed here.
did you? Okay,
Yeah.
had the turkey day here and all that good stuff.
Wife's family came into town, had some friends over.
Okay,
And then all the Cuban family came up from Miami, and we went out to Sharon where some of their family lives and roasted
wow.
a pig.
really?
So that was fun, which
Okay.
we do that every year. Have you ever had the crackling, the skin off of the pig after it's been roasting all day?
Yeah,
It is.
I know, right?
God, so good.
So y'all did whole hog?
Yes,
Oh wow,
always.
Okay. Good deal. Yeah, no, we just had the regular old traditional fare, turkey, dressing, all that kind of stuff, and then I mean nothing comes with nothing goes with Thanksgiving like a nice turkey day afternoon nap while you're watching either a Lions game or a Cowboys game.
I fell asleep during one of them. I don't even remember which one. As soon as
Probably-
I ate, just
I think I fell through both, but
and I prefer that as opposed to traveling because then
Yeah.
you feel like you don't want to fall asleep at somebody else's house.
oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
I was at my sister's house, so I fell asleep on her couch. But yeah, man, made it back up here. Did some oysters for the Clemson Carolina game. I know you went.
Yeah, took
and-
Callahan for his first Clemson Carolina game.
Oh, well, good. That's a good tradition.
Yeah.
He'll always have this first memory etched. Tigers lose.
We went home and we were saying our prayers, and we get done, or we're wrapping up, and he's like, "And dear Jesus, please next time Clemson plays, let them win." I said, "Buddy, we don't pray for things like that."
Well, I mean, that's a good prayer considering y'all got SMU tonight.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And I hope you beat the brakes off them by like 50. man.
We're gonna get into football and some college playoffs.
That's right.
That's for
So
sure.
on this episode, we're going to talk about, we were down in Columbia this week for a few days doing our organizational sessions.
Yep.
We'll tell the two listeners all about that. We'll talk about some football, and then we'll probably talk about some of the drama that comes with being a legislator.
Yeah.
If you've listened to the podcast before, we've talked about sort of the struggles that we've had with some members belonging to the Freedom Party who just are always up to something. So we'll talk about that.
The Karen caucus, always something to complain about.
and then probably want to, if we have some time, get into committee assignments, those types of things. What are you looking forward to on your new committee?
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. So why don't we get into?
I want to talk about also my week after our last podcast. I had to fly off to D.C., went down there for the Project Liberty Summit.
Oh, okay. So we'll
and
do
that
some
was
quick
very
hits.
good. Yeah, just
Okay.
quick hits.
Well, good deal. Let's tackle this past week. Went down for organizational session, and for the folks who don't know, this is a day or two. I think we spend 2 days on it. The Senate comes down for one because they have a third less members.
Yeah.
But on our first day, well, we gavelled in at 11?
Yeah, it was at 11.
Welcome 21, 22 new members, was it? How?
I was thinking it was 19, but maybe 21.
Yeah. But so we had about 20 new faces.
And they don't get to speak from the well like the Senate does.
Yeah, right.
As introductory remarks.
Nope. We just welcome them informally. In our York County delegation alone, we had 2 new faces.
Jackie Terrabill.
Yep, from TKK and David Martin over there in Fort Mill. Jackie took David O'Neill's spot from the last 125th session. We're now in the 126th.
I thought we was 125th now.
No. That's why we got the big lapel pins last year. It was the 125th.
Okay. I've been telling people backwards.
Now we're back to the quarter size instead of $50. Last year we had a brooch.
No one explained to me why we had a brooch last year.
This year we just have a lapel pin.
Okay.
And David Martin, obviously, who's been on this podcast before, he took Ray Felder's old seat. So, so informally, everyone got over there. You know what? I thought most people got over there earlier. Where in normal session, everyone's like getting over there like...
This is the beginning. Everybody shows up on time at the beginning.
You're probably right.
Yeah, I thought the funny thing was we were told to be there at a specific time so we could get this thing started. And 30 minutes later, we get a text from Gary Brewer. He's like, I'm glad we were supposed to be here on time.
Yeah, I mean, because they did start lickety-split, man. But, got to meet a lot of the new faces. I'm actually sharing a desk with Paul. From Greenville. He took over for Jason Elliott.
Yeah.
And so why don't you tell the 2 listeners about, once we took the oath, we then elect officers.
Yes.
And so we have to take nominations.
Yep. So we start off with speaker.
Yeah.
We have to elect speaker, which, of course, Merle Smith, he had his freshman year as speaker last year. Yep. We passed the most conservative legislation in 250 years in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Within those 2 years. And he was up for speaker again. However, the Freedom Party wanted to make an example, even though they supported him last year. They wanted to nominate Bill Chumley. The reasoning given was they were saying that Merle makes Democrats chairman.
Sub-chairs.
Subcommittee
chairs.
And
again, you want to talk about grasping at straws.
Yeah.
They didn't say any of this last year or the year before that.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have DC telling them to say it.
Yeah.
Then.
Well, so yeah, I interrupted.
So, but they nominated Bill Chumley. Bill Chumley is a good conservative legislator. He's been there for a long time. However, Chumley only got 17 of the votes.
Yeah.
And, we saw some members state that it was telling that all the Democrats who they voted for in the chair, which was just dumb. If you have a strong leader to begin with, why are you sitting here advocating to change it? And especially whenever you know that you don't have the votes. You didn't even bother talking to people to get additional votes. That's the funny thing about it.
When I walked into the chamber, I the old seating arrangement, Cody Mitchell's on that back row over there with Yao and then also Fawn's sort of in that same aisle on the left side. And so went up, shook their hands, gave them hugs, welcome back guys, that sort of thing. And that's when someone mentioned, I think the Freedom Party is going to nominate one of their folks. I'm like, they didn't even like.
Well, if you want to whip up votes, if you want to get it done,
that's what I mean. If you want to be successful in anything, you're going to start trying to let the body know and saying, hey, can we ask for your support? If not, what why? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just try to get.
And especially if you're trying to become the new speaker, you would think that you would take the time to sit with each individual member that's going to be voting on you and explain why you should become speaker.
Yeah.
I mean, Merle did that.
And again, with it's the same thing with some of the legislation that the ideas and the policies that they tout that they're for, but they're unserious. They don't take the effort seriously to actually govern, right? To actually pass effective legislation. What they take seriously is holding press conferences and tweeting out and posting things on social media about how they're so conservative and we're Democrats.
It's not usually about how they're so conservative. It's just really trying to bash anyone else.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
So, nevertheless, Merle overwhelmingly was voted back in.
Yes. He had a great nominating speech, by the way.
Yeah. All right, for 2 listeners, I'm going to give you all the backstory. So, our colleague and friend Tommy Pope had asked me, when we went to our first delegation meeting where we got sworn in here locally over at the York County Courthouse, and he asked me, hey, would you nominate me? And I said, yeah.
I mean, and by the way, you are now chair of the York County delegation.
Yes. Yep, that's right. So I guess they just wanted to, all the veteran members of our delegation just wanted to pile on me this year. So,
Heath can do it.
I have the honor and privilege of leading our delegation this year, this term. And, Tommy asked if I wouldn't nominate him. I'm like, yeah, sure. And, you and I know Tommy pretty well at this point. I felt, I checked out some things in the legislative manual about when he got elected in. I think I even turned to you and I said, hey, I know Tommy's been pro tem in that capacity of.
You asked me, and I just gave you wrong dates.
But I didn't know actually when Tommy was elected first to the House. And so I turned to you. So long story short, when I had walked in the room, I noticed that our friend Cody Mitchell was nominating Mitch Dorman, the longtime Sergeant at Arms. And Cody Mitchell has large print 8-9 page speech prepared in a binder. And I'm like, what is that? And he goes, oh, that's my nominating speech. And he goes, man, I'm ready. And I said, really? You have how 8-9 pages? Large font though,
Yeah.
And I was like,
well, his neck,
yeah.
He could look down.
I said, are you kidding? So no, he wasn't kidding. He was prepared. And I said, okay. Well, then I run into Fawn. And she's like, I get the honor and pleasure of nominating Merle Smith, her Sumter colleague. And I said, oh, okay. She's like, you want to read my speech? And I'm like, you have a prepared speech too? So that's when I was like, all right, y'all setting me up.
Everyone had a prepared speech except for Heath.
And Tommy, I love you, man. And man, if I did you wrong, I apologize. But so obviously I started stressing out a little bit. I'm like, Tommy.
But then he went to the wrong source to ask for information. He's asking me. I'm looking it up, and I'm giving him the wrong dates. He's like, no, that's not right.
I'm like, Tommy, how many? You got 3 kids, right? He goes, no, 4. So I mean, I thought I did fine.
Yeah, you did great. You couldn't tell that, you didn't just memorize something.
Well, and the thing is, Tommy has a proven track record. Merle's been speaker for 2 years.
Yeah.
Tommy has been pro tem under 2 speakers for a decade.
Yeah.
So the body knows who Tommy Pope is.
And not a lot of people want to be pro tem.
Well,
you kind of get stuck up there.
Yeah.
And yet you don't have the power.
So anyway, I had the honor and privilege of nominating Tommy Pope. He wasn't even challenged, so he's our pro tem. So Merle Smith gives he gives his nominating acceptance speech. And I had some jokes for my nominating speech for Tommy Pope, but I'm following up Merle's acceptance speech where he talks about the august, respectful body that we're in.
Seriousness.
This is serious business, which is all true. I just thought I couldn't follow with Tommy Pope in 1995 was voted the sexiest man alive. You know what I mean? I know y'all
Was
don't know.
he? Is that true?
He was
nominated.
He was in the time or the people, whatever it was.
The Susan Smith trial.
Yeah. That was in that episode, so people give them one.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I was also going to joke around about, to the new members, I know y'all don't even know Tommy Pope, but I'm sure you've seen him on his court TV show. So I was going to poke some fun at our colleague from York County. But after Merle's speech, I was like, that's going to be inappropriate. So I just went the standard proven track record of, conservative values, supporting law enforcement. He's a great family man, great grandfather of 4 kids, all those things.
Well, Tommy, if you want inappropriate, next time you need to ask me.
He may be he may be number 2 from the dais, but he is number 1 in our hearts. Tommy Pope, pro tem. So once we got Tommy Pope as pro tem, Merle Smith was our speaker again.
Well, Tommy's speech was great.
Tommy's
Because-
speech was fantastic.
Yeah. He said, he started off and he's like, you could see the Freedom Caucus doesn't really view me as a threat because they didn't put anybody against me.
Right. Tommy does a good job of mixing in, the brevity and the seriousness of our business, but also laying. I mean, he threw out some scripture, but he also threw in some humor.
Yeah.
And you can tell he's comfortable. I mean, he's been up there. He's been doing it over 10 years. So.
He gave a speech. He explained the last time that the speaker was challenged prior to this term was the Norman Five, as he called it.
Right.
Ralph Norman challenged the speaker. I believe it was Bobby Harrell at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't follow state politics that well, but the only people that supported him were the 5 York County delegates.
It was Norman, Simrel, Pope. Did Dennis Moss get in there?
I don't think so. He was probably a Democrat then.
Nathan Ballantyne.
Nathan Ballantyne supported him. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, that is right. And John King.
Oh,
He
really?
said John King. Yeah, so
Okay.
the Norman Five.
Okay.
So he shared that story. And that was at a time where you really got punished if you went against the good old boy system. So he talked about how he was on the floor cleaning committee for next few years. But I always found that funny.
Man.
So it's hard to believe that, Tommy, Gary, Ralph is up here. They're all considered, so different and kind of separate types of Republicans, but yet, you find out that they were all down there friends, kind of like myself, you, and Wes.
Yeah.
And, I think that's the one thing that I want to avoid is ever becoming enemies of you guys.
Yeah.
Like, we're friends
Before.
here first, before.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and let these political games ever divide our friendship.
Well,
but if you mess up, I'm still going to call you out.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. And when you respect people,
Yeah.
I think generally we can be successful in doing that.
Right.
But I do enjoy hearing the stories of, again, being from York County, hearing the stories of Simrel and Pope and Ralph Norman carpooling together.
Yeah.
And I think it's endearing.
I bet you that was Ralph's idea.
You
Ralph is such a fiscal conservative. He will save a penny every chance that he can get. I bet you that was his idea.
But I mean, just hearing those stories, it really lets folks, behind the curtain,
Yeah.
because now everyone thinks of Ralph as this big guy in Washington and, all those things.
Well, and then Tommy and Ralph ran against each other.
Yeah.
Because the story was Tommy was going to run for governor.
Yeah.
And
I don't even see.
they
I don't
both
even know
ended
all
up
those.
running for Congress
against
one another. And I think that started a lot of the bad blood.
Yeah, understandable. So after we got Speaker and Pro Tem in, we then went and heard nominating speeches. Micah Caskey did a great job nominating Charles Reed.
Yes.
For
now he had some humor in his.
Oh yeah, he did.
But for the guy who wore the tinfoil hat on the floor, you expect nothing less.
And then our colleague Jermaine Johnson.
Yes. Nominated Bubba Cromer.
Bubba Cromer as our reading clerk.
Now that was a contentious vote.
Yeah. I think Dennis Moss objected to voting for him by acclamation and then closing. Acclamation is just there's no objection, it's unanimous, and let's move on.
Bubba still was at no threat of losing, but he had plenty of people abstain from voting to share their frustrations with some comments that he made about President Trump. Now, Bubba is really good friends with Nikki Haley.
Yes.
And so, of course, he felt Nikki was attacked, and so he was attacking Trump. Not saying that it's right, but Bubba's also not a political position. He's
a reading clerk.
Yeah. And as we have said before, Bubba goes above and beyond in doing his job.
Oh, 100%.
And he's been there 26 years as clerk and 8 years as a legislator before then, the only person to ever be voted as an independent.
Yes. And that was sort of, in my conversations with Representative Moss, I said, Dennis, I support freedom of speech. That was his personal Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mind a diversity of thought. You know, he supported Nikki Haley and did not appreciate some of the remarks and the attacks that befell her. Now, again, all is fair in love in politics, and so I didn't really take it personally.
But I don't think we're going to be seeing any more comments like that from Bubba.
Yes, correct.
Out of 26 years to get reprimanded one time.
And that's what I.
That's not a
It
point
came down
to
to
lose your
me.
position.
Hey, wait a minute. We're talking about a post on a personal Facebook page. We're not talking about job performance.
Right.
Okay, what are we talking about? And you know, and no slight to the position, but he's the reading clerk.
If we're judging people based on Facebook pages, I'm screwed. I mean,
well, I mean, you're keeping it.
I feel like I'm keeping it real. But, you know, hey, I'm standing on business.
Hey, you know when we're gonna have to get Dave Chappelle to when keeping it real goes wrong, Brandon Guffey.
True.
Stop playing on my phone. But yeah, so that Tuesday that's basically what we did. Came back and then voted in our ethics folks.
Yes,
our ethics
which
committee.
that was even contentious as well. Which under state law, we have to have 5 Democrats, and then we have to have 5 Republicans.
Yes.
So typically the minority party is going to pick 5. The majority party picks 5. Our 5, I mean, I think they were pretty much the same from last time.
Mm-hmm.
I know our chairman was, and
yeah, they were.
so we tried
exact
to
same.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, these 5 were on our ethics committee. Our chairman was good, and this is what we're doing. And then whenever we got into the chamber, Joe White's name was brought up to be added to the list. So
Joe
now we
White
have
is our colleague. He's a member of the Freedom Party. He's from Newberry.
Newberry.
Yep, over on that side of the state.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how that happened. Did someone nominate him?
I don't think anyone nominated.
Because
I think
it's
he
a
just
slate. Right?
I think they just turned in his name to add to it.
Okay.
So typically we would just vote for the slate and move on.
Yeah.
But since there was a 6th person added, we had to go ahead.
Every member gets 5 votes.
Yes.
And so basically all the Republicans voted for Republicans.
Right.
And then the
Or the
Democrats.
ones that have the experience on it.
Yeah.
We wanted the people on ethics that whenever they say something, they actually mean it instead of spewing ignorance at times like Joe White has been known to do,
Well,
in my opinion.
If you're going to go on the record and question someone's character,
Better have receipts.
I mean, 100%. Public corruption is a crime.
Yeah.
Okay? And
Joe's kind of like your grandfather. He's going to say some things that you disagree with, but there's still a line that you have to follow.
yeah. Yeah, 100%. And so, yeah, he was unsuccessful in that. And then the Democrats had their 5.
Correct.
And they put those folks on. So we got that done. And then we also did operations, did we not?
We did, which if
who-
you're on operations, if you're on rule, or not rule, was it rules?
I thought it was operations and something, but
Yeah, but you couldn't serve on another committee if you were on, is it ethics or rules? Which one was it?
I thought it was the operational one.
Okay. Maybe it was operations,
You couldn't serve.
which Patrick Haddon runs operations,
chair.
correct?
Yep. And that's basically running the personnel, all
Yeah.
the legislative aides, all those folks who help keep, the black building operational and all
Which takes a lot of work.
Yeah. So
I walked into Merle's office on Wednesday, and there was a Guinness Book of World Records plaque sitting there. And I'm looking at it like, what did he get? Guinness Book of World Records? And it was slowest elevators in South Carolina.
Do not get Merle started. Well, so we did that, and then Wednesday we came back, really gabbled in prayer pledge, and then
Got
committee
committee
assignments, and then went and met with our prospective committees. So,
Yes.
So yeah, let's talk about.
Whining?
I served on the Medical, Military, and Municipal Affairs, otherwise known as 3M.
Which historically was a Democrat-ran committee
Yeah, last
while
year.
they were the minority party.
So our first term, was when Speaker Merle Smith said, "No, we're not making 3M. There's too much business to be done. 3M's a real committee. It's not going to be where all the Democrats get to serve."
Yeah.
And so he split that up.
Yeah.
And
we had some very important legislation, like repealing a CON came out of there.
Yes, correct.
Last year.
A lot of issues dealing with our veterans and military, and CON were the big ones that I can just right off the top of my head think about. That is where the medical billing transparency bill that I had last year came out of.
That's where medicinal marijuana will come out of. If it comes out of.
Yeah, right. So
that's the question.
So yeah, so I asked to stay there. I was interested in LCI last term. Obviously, I didn't get it, and then was considering either that or 3M. But at the end of the day, I said, "Man, I really want to stay on the medical subcommittee if I can."
Well, you made a huge difference.
So, healthcare is one of those things that, man, just affects everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And so the bug hit me. Have a passion for it. So
this year you're going to be rolling out Sessions Care.
Yeah.
Right? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So I don't know. I look forward to the work we're going to do over there. What about you?
So last year I served on Judiciary. I was on the Special Laws Subcommittee because it's not common for a freshman to be on Judiciary.
Yep.
And especially a non-attorney being on there. So it's a huge learning curve because 60% of all bills come through Judiciary. But being on the Special Laws Subcommittee, I think John McCravey was my chair. We only met 3 times in 2 years, I believe it was.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't meet very often at all. Wow. But then again, most things have their own committee.
Right.
That they're going to. Special Laws is what covered what didn't fit within one of those other committees.
Okay. Those other subcommittees?
Yeah, the other subcommittees, gotcha. I mean.
Because what do y'all have? What's the subcommittees there? Constitutional, criminal?
I'm really not sure.
Because
I paid attention to Special Laws and full Judiciary.
Yep.
So I think there was family, probate.
Okay.
But, you know, I focused on the Special Laws and then the primary committee, but it was a huge learning curve. However, my focus being on tech, I believe in order with our new regulations committee being named regulations and artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence cybersecurity. I felt comfortable staying on regulations on that end. And I wanted to focus on bringing more tech, which in order to bring more tech, you have to bring energy. Now, so I advocated hard to get on the LCI committee, which is Labor, Commerce, and Industry. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know what the subcommittee is yet, but I'm hoping that it will be on energy, so that way I can really focus on that.
There you go.
But yeah, I'm happy with getting moved, and I know people say Judiciary is the second most powerful committee in the State House. So to many, this would be a demotion. To me, I believe this is more focused on the best place I can make a difference.
You know, this is a good example of, you know, and we could talk about this a little bit. We had a colleague, Josiah Magnuson, who is a new member of the committee that I'm on, 3M.
Which Josiah just had a baby, so let's say congratulations on just having a baby.
Yeah, and so he is joining me. Him and I are on medical, military, public and municipal affairs committee, 3M. And, you know, I went up to him after our committee, our sort of intro first committee meeting happened on Wednesday. I walked over and talked to him and said, "Hey, man, welcome." Him and I just talked a little bit. And I was, again, I understand his frustration, but he needs to be more deliberate and not let the emotions subside before you put stuff out on Twitter. Because this was a little disappointing after the conversation I just had with him face to face.
We can only have one Guffey in the chamber.
So he takes to Twitter and says, "Today I was stripped of my committee assignments to legislative oversight in agriculture and placed on the lowest, quote unquote, committee in the SC House, which covers medical affairs and a few other random items. Happy that Merle Smith views me as the greatest threat to the status quo." Now, if he could take this back, I think he would.
No, he's doubled down on it.
But yeah, I still think that he knows he messed up.
No,
Because
he
when
not only did he
says-
post it, he did a live video.
Okay, well, then, again, further
Yeah.
disappointment. But when he said I was stripped of my committee assignments, first off, every 2 years, for the 2 listeners out there, you get your committee assignment. And that's assigned to you by the speaker.
Yes.
So some of that language stripped of my assignments, yeah, okay, your role's changed, but you're up for that every 2 years. The second mistake was he said placed on the lowest committee.
Yeah, that's the backhand to all the great work that's done on the 3M committee.
Go ask independent doctors, right,
Yeah.
about the insignificance of the repeal of CON.
Go tell our veterans that the issues most important to them
I
is
know.
insignificant.
And it just puzzles me that he would say this. And I don't know.
I replied to him and said that's the difference between you and I, is I could be on the floor sweeping committee and do it with a smile on my face as long as I get to participate as one of the 124 voices to represent my people in the
Correct.
state of South Carolina.
Correct. So I don't know what he was thinking. I don't even know. I said, Josiah, as I told you to your face, we got some lead. Let's leave this. And that's what I told him. I said, Josiah, I understand, you want to politic on social media. I said, but let's not do it.
Oh,
in
no,
here.
not according to them. It's
Well,
not politics.
I said, but leave the circus out there. When we come into this chamber, this committee chamber,
What?
let's do serious work, okay?
How else will he play the victim card, though?
Well,
I mean, it's kind of the gameplay of the Freedom Party.
So, and again, while this may be critical of Josiah's tweet, which I don't think was the best decision, I do look forward to working with other members, right, on serious policy issues that pushes the ball forward for the state of South Carolina. Even though he's in the Freedom Party, I still look forward to working with all members.
Because the party really shouldn't matter
And
whenever
I'm being
it comes
earnest
to
when I
issues.
say that, but it's just so frustrating for the 2 listeners out there is that when you sit there and have a face-to-face conversation with the man and he goes, yes, yep, look forward to working with you, blah, 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 and then he turns right around and goes and tweets that out to however many folks. And I'm
12.
just like, you know what I mean? It's just frustrating, man.
Yeah.
It's just unserious.
They all
And
go to church with him.
it drives me crazy. So anyway, hey,
Well, speaking of complaining, we also had another member, former chair of subcommittee.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, John McCravey.
Yeah.
Was he voted? And again, I'm not
He
in
was
judiciary.
voted vice chair of judiciary.
Okay. So,
Subcommittees have not been assigned yet. And yet he resigned from the second most powerful
again, the
committee
perceived.
in the state,
Right.
yeah, as what is stated, and he resigned from it, and he is an attorney. He's a very bright, very smart attorney.
Yeah.
Resigned from it, basically saying that there are philosophical differences between him and Chairman Newton.
And so I have sort of made a few calls, I'm sure you have, to other members of the Judiciary Committee. And from what I understand, he was subcommittee chair of special laws. And that he did not get that responsibility this term.
Well,
that special laws, I had heard, was also going to be the subcommittee that was going to focus on the AI cybersecurity bills, because you are going to be introducing some bills that deal with tech, and that is where that's probably going to get, pushed to judiciary and then heard. If any of the bills get a hearing, it'll be special laws and AI cybersecurity, that subcommittee. So Chairman Newton may have wanted someone that understood those issues.
That wasn't 30 whenever the internet was invented to be on that.
Right.
I mean, I'm not being mean. I'm being honest.
Yes.
Someone that, because as I get older, I have to sit here with my kids and I feel like a boomer trying to operate within their world. It's an age difference and it makes a big difference.
Yeah. So and again, he may have some legitimate differences of opinion with Chairman Newton, but why that would cause you to quit? If I quit every time
Do you have the ability to quit a committee?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
And Merle even made the comment whenever he was announcing committees that there's 124 people in there
Yeah.
that are requesting specific committees. Not everyone can go where they need to.
Yep.
And that means some will be disappointed, some will be happy, but you have to do what is best for the state overall. And you're making a decision of trying to say, and granted, if I was to be removed from anything to do with AI cybersecurity,
Yeah.
I would feel slighted.
Yep.
You know? But then again, I've never been in leadership, so I don't know how that works.
I always, and I was asked about, do you have any preferences for this, that, and the other? And I told the folks who asked me, I was like, look, I prefer 3M. But at the end of the day, I'll bloom where I'm planted, okay? I didn't want to be on 3M last time. But guess what? We're operating on a higher plan than our plans. And so God put me there.
And without you there, would we have been able to repeal CON?
Oh, I think
you can sit there and say that all you want, but how many years did Wes Clymer try to repeal CON?
Well,
and could
I
not
think,
get it moving.
So for folks out there, and you're giving me way too much credit. No, I think it was a great team in place.
He likes to play the all shucks like he doesn't influence people, but he does. Therefore,
no,
that's the reason you were elected chair of the York County delegation.
I'm not saying that I don't. I'm just saying I was part of a great team.
Yeah.
Mark Smith out of Berkeley County, Daniel
I agree.
Island, Celeste Davis out of Berkeley. We're chair and subcommittee chair last year.
But it took all of you getting together to get that done.
Correct. I think we all there was a collective momentum, and everyone will tell you, CON had been worked on for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
You and I just happened to be able to jump in front of the parade, and declare victory. And we like to.
I didn't declare victory. I remember Beach asking me, where do you stand on this CON? I said, wherever Heath stands. He's been studying it so much, I'm going to trust what he...
It was one of the issues that when I was just a regular Joe citizen, I remember sitting and
talking with Clymer about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a rule out there that stipulates you go ask your competition to get, to expand your practice. What kind of sense does that make?
Yeah.
And,
I wish every business had that.
So,
I don't want no more charge.
Yeah. So we do tease our Senate colleague and friend, Wes Clymer.
Yeah.
That, hey, man, I mean, y'all couldn't get it done, so we had to come in and do what y'all could.
But, I mean, as you said, everything kind of happens for a reason. And I think that was a perfect example of you being where you needed to be.
Yeah.
And Josiah should have took that approach.
Well,
McCravey should take that approach.
Correct.
And McCravey's a man of strong faith.
Yeah. And, look at you. I mean, you're a non-attorney, and you were pressing hard as a freshman to be on the Judiciary Committee only because you wanted to pass Gavin's law.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I needed to learn how law is made and how we go about it in order to understand.
It was a great learning experience for you primarily, but also I got to listen in on the growth and your learning curve because
I needed it.
Because literally, I remember when we first ran and won, I remember you were, man, lawyer legislators, they're the devil. And guess who helped Brandon Guffey get that bill written correctly to where the language was tight, precise, and it didn't, you know what I mean?
It didn't take away others' rights.
Civil's liberty, personal, that's right. Guess who helped him?
Yeah.
Them demon lawyer legislators, So, but that's a great example. You got in to judiciary, did that. And the funny thing is, I actually like that you're following your passions. And so every 2 years, you're like, hey, you know what? I really, really am passionate about education. I'm going to go jump on education for 2 years.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen. You don't want me being the voice of education.
But, well, I mean, so now we're talking about technology and those types of things.
Yeah.
And that's an emerging, I mean, man, it's part of our economy, but now
I think it is we're in the middle of the revolution.
With the data center power draw.
Yeah.
And how that's going to affect how we deliver energy to consumers and our businesses, you have an interest in making sure that we can do that.
I think South Carolina can lead, and we can be the next Silicon Valley. The only thing that we are missing in order to do so is energy.
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah. So,
tax reform, which is coming.
I wish. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Representative McCravy in his committee assignment.
Yeah, that was a shock to me.
I don't think
I've never
heard of someone resigning from a committee assignment.
The only part that I had a problem with in his letter, he said sometimes you learn to go along to get along, and sometimes you need to stand up. But yet you don't say what you're standing up for. It's speaking in generalities, and that becomes the issue.
Yeah.
Because people twist your words.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we'll find out. But as far as this, I've never heard of something like this happening. Personally, I think he has a committee assignment. If he chooses to shirk that responsibility, then so be it. For whatever reason.
You're only hurting your constituents.
Correct.
And with Josiah and John, whenever I see somebody do something like that, it makes me question, are you there for yourself or are you there for your people?
I think that's an honest, fair question, right? And probably something that, John, better, I think, than I do because you worked with him.
Yeah. I've got a ton of respect for John. John, and I know some people will complain about McCravy, but John reminds me of all of my cousins from up in the North Carolina mountains. Like, whenever John talks, it's almost like one of my cousins are talking.
Oh, yeah.
Like the same beliefs, the same passionate about it. Like, I remember leaving I think it was the Republican caucus meeting last year in Greenville. And the first time I talked to McCravy about, he was trying to get me to join the family caucus. Whenever we were having those discussions, I loved being able to debate the issues with him,
Sorry, I had to throw
But
in the log
me,
on fire.
I like to play devil's advocate on things, so I want to give you the problem and see what your solution is to ensure that you've thought through it.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say McCravy is one of those that seemed to have thought through. It didn't matter what I threw at him; he had an answer for it.
Yeah.
And
he's
that
a real
earned
smart
my
guy.
respect right away. And I didn't know him before I got in there.
Yeah.
But I had a tremendous amount of respect for him.
Yeah.
And I remember on some of the votes, he would come up to me and he's like, "Guffey, you on this?" And I was like, sometimes it's what I believe. Sometimes it's about what my people believe or what my people want. And I need to make sure that I'm representing my people at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, unfortunately, he wasn't pleased, I guess, with, sort of how some of the business shaked out. So, we'll see what happens for sure. So.
Let me get my gay David.
Well, that means it's college football time, baby. And man, I tell you, we had so much fun over Thanksgiving break, and then to come back home, do the oyster roast here.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
It's them damn crabs.
At least.
You get a crab and an oyster and you'll win every time.
Yep. That's a sign of good luck. But no, we had awesome weather.
Yeah.
It was crisp, chilly. It was perfect football weather, I thought. Sun shining, clear day in Death Valley. You were there.
I was dressed like in so many layers.
Yeah.
And it got hot. I stripped down to a T-shirt.
Oh, really?
Of course, I'm sitting like 2 rows from the very top of the stadium because it was so hard to get tickets.
Yeah.
And it was just smoking hot. And I kept having to go up and down the stairs because I brought Callahan, my 6-year-old, to his first Clemson game, along with Cohen, my 18-year-old, and my dad to the game. And we were sitting there. And, of course,
everyone is Tiger fans?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So Callahan, who originally hated the Gamecocks, like the first time I brought him to the USC women's basketball playoff game against Wofford, or was it Wofford? No, it wasn't Wofford.
No, it wasn't Wofford.
It was that team with the weird name, something blue something, but it's a South Carolina team.
Oh,
Presbyterian College.
Yeah,
but whenever they played them, and Callie was pitching a fit about going into a Gamecock stadium.
Yeah.
And then I was like, Bud, this is a South Carolina team. Like we're better than Gamecock fans. We want them to do good.
Stop.
As long as they're not playing us.
Stop.
Trying to instill some some morals into the kid.
Yeah.
And he walked out saying that the Gamecocks were his third favorite team. And he has cheered for the Gamecocks. But whenever this game come up, it was all about the Tigers.
Yeah.
And I think Cohen had a lot to do with that, pushing it on him.
Yeah.
And he was just so excited. And he wasn't paying attention to the game like we were. Like, he's ready to leave, and the game's just getting good in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And that was one of the best games that I have seen live.
Yeah.
It really was.
It was nip and tuck. You couldn't tell who was going to win.
Right.
I didn't see any clear momentum either way. I thought y'all had it a little bit for most of the game, like the edge, because we would turn the ball over.
Yeah.
I think the first drive, man, things were clicking. Sellers was doing his magic tricks on y'all. Y'all couldn't tackle him.
I mean, the only question I have about the whole game is, why didn't we get the LSU refs? Like, that would have been.
Oh, you got to bring up old shit.
They went to the wrong Tiger game.
Yeah, man.
But, yeah, it was a great game.
And y'all led for most of the way.
Yeah. And truthfully, Cade Klubnik
had a great game.
And Sellers were battling back and forth.
Both
the Clemson
had two
receivers starting off with those grabs. I mean, it was
y'all had
unreal.
Those sideline bombs. Hey, and our defense, it was great defense.
Yeah.
Your players just made heck of catches. I mean,
And I thought that we had some horrific play calling on third down. It looked like Tommy Bowden was back in there. It's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, and let's run a draw. But we kept trying to run up the middle. I mean,
why I think the college football landscape has changed when it comes to bringing in analytics.
Yeah.
Case in point, y'all go driving down on y'all's first drive. Once we fumbled the ball on our first drive, we fumbled in the red zone. I mean, I think
y'all were lighting it up.
Yeah. I thought we were going to go and score. This is going to be I thought it was going to be an offensive game. I really thought it was going to be like a 31-30 type game. And y'all sack, fumble, get the ball. Y'all march down the field, get to our 10-yard line,
and go for it on fourth.
It's 4th and a half a yard.
No, it's 4th and 2, I think, wasn't it?
I don't know. But my point,
instead of kicking the field goal,
I'm out here with my father-in-law, who is an avid Tiger fan, and I said, "Bro, it's the first quarter. Why would you go for this? Why not put points on the board, be leading?"
Because you wanted to take away that momentum from that first drive the Gamecocks made. And you wanted to really put your foot on their throat, and instead you gave them more breath.
And the commentators even said, they made the comment, analytics says you go for it here. Because even if you don't get it, you're putting the Gamecocks at 1st and 10 from the 9-yard line, 10-yard line, whatever it was. But I totally disagreed with it. I was like, take the points and get off the field. Right?
Go ahead and take the lead.
They go for it, and to the credit of the Gamecock defense, man. And again, I thought y'all were going to even get it. I was still saying kick the field goal and take the points.
Well, Clemson couldn't move the ball up the middle. That defensive front of South Carolina is great.
But I thought the offensive line of Clemson did or maybe it was just the scheme and the play calling too. They did a good job for the most part of keeping down Kennard, Stewart. They didn't, you know what I mean? I think a lot of it was
Gamecocks were playing contain.
Maffa
couldn't get to the outside.
Yeah.
And he kept getting stuffed in the middle.
Yeah,
so it looked like Maffa wasn't running hard, but I think your defensive ends were playing contain, and they are that talented. They weren't trying to come in after us every time. They were containing, and it was a great game plan. I thought it was a great game all the way around. I was happy because I honestly thought Clemson might get embarrassed depending on which Cade Klubnik showed up.
Yeah. But he did a great.
He
played
did great.
A great game.
Yeah,
I think
right
he
there at
passed
the
for
end.
Like 270.
Yeah.
And ran for another 50, 60 yards.
I was shocked to see Sellers' rushing total.
Yeah. So,
sitting there at the game, I knew he'd take off occasionally, but 188 yards or something?
166 yards.
Golly.
I think he both passed for 165 and ran for 165. So 320-something yards of passing and rushing yards.
But Sellers is coming into his own.
He
Gamecocks are definitely one of the hottest teams in the country.
Yes.
And which brings me to the next statement of, as a Clemson fan, if we lose to South Carolina, does it really make us feel good? The only way to feel better, an ACC championship doesn't make us feel better. But if we won a national championship, we'd be like, whatever.
Yeah, right.
We wouldn't worry about it as bad. But I don't see this Clemson team going that deep. I'll be shocked if they beat SMU, but they only got into the SMU game because Syracuse beat Miami.
Hey, and they were down 21-0.
Yeah.
21-0 and come back on the Canes. And
Miami just does not have a defense.
They do not. They sure don't.
Yeah.
And,
but I want to share some frustration from a friend of mine that is a huge Florida State fan.
Okay.
His words last night was he has zero sympathy and actually takes great joy in watching Gamecock fans complain about being a 9-3 team and not making the playoff.
Yep.
Whereas all they wanted to do was run their mouth last year whenever Florida State was undefeated and a conference championship.
Yep.
And didn't make it into the playoff.
But it's the same argument, right? I'm making the same argument to why Florida State should be left out last year. And the same argument is true this year for us. Florida State, going at the end of last season, was a different team if they were selected to go to the Final Four, whatever it was, than they were during the regular season. Their quarterback got knocked out. So
but you've got to look at the record, though.
No, you do.
Especially if you're undefeated.
You
don't leave out an undefeated team.
You do, but you look at their strength of schedule.
If this would have been the 90s, they would have been co-champions.
Yeah, but it's not the 90s. I mean, if this was the
that's
90s,
the way
you'd still be on rollerblades, bro. You know?
But that's the only reason Nebraska had national championships.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Or Penn State, too.
So last year it was Florida State, who they play, strength of schedule, basically, when it came down to Alabama. Because what is it in a one-loss Alabama?
Yeah.
Versus undefeated
Florida State.
And I guess the way the committee looked at it last year was who's the best team. Right now, going into the playoffs, who's the best team?
But they're not looking at that with South Carolina.
Again, that is what I'm saying again.
Yeah.
Look at our strength of schedule.
I think they're looking at who brings in the most money.
Well, that's probably is a component.
They're like 90% of Gamecock fans didn't go to the University of South Carolina. They're not going to bring in the money that Alabama fans will. I'm just kidding because I didn't even go to Clemson, and I'm a Clemson fan.
I think Gamecock fans, I think we travel well. If we were the 12th team in, we'd be playing probably someone like Notre Dame or Penn State. And I think our game is suited for a cold weather snow game, and we'll just plow it. Good defense.
I think Sellers would show out.
That is correct. And you have one of the most exciting young players in college football, in Lenore Sellers. And why wouldn't you put him in? And
specifically for the last 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah. And so the scenario
is... And you've watched him get better.
The scenario is, which would be awesome, is if I want y'all to blow the doors off SMU tonight. If I want y'all to beat them by 90.
Makes y'all's strength of schedule look better, for
sure.
Well,
and it forces the committee to really look at SMU's record, who they played, and look, I mean, Clemson stood toe-to-toe with South Carolina. That's a coin flip game. Let's be honest. Y'all could have won that game. And when I was watching that live, I was afraid, because y'all were on the 20-yard line. I was afraid Klubnik was going to run or, pull some heroics out right at the last second, and y'all were going to beat us. But, it didn't go that way. D. Knight made a great interception off the tip ball from Maffa. So I'm looking forward to hopefully y'all just blow the doors off. I mean, the way the playoffs sit right now, it's Oregon, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee. Currently, SMU is 8th, Indiana is 9th, and Boise State is 10th. Now, that 8, 9, 10 right there, SMU, Indiana, Boise State, and again, I know this is going to sound unfair, and granted, I have an SEC bias. Clemson beats the tar at SMU tonight. I don't think Indiana belongs there. And
I can agree with that.
And I
don't
know,
think any of those red and white teams belong there.
But I mean, they played Ohio State, and Ohio State smoked them by 15, 16 points. Boise State.
Now, did Indiana beat Nebraska?
So, I'll go back to what Beamer said in a press conference this week.
And I think everybody agrees South Carolina got screwed over in the LSU game.
Right, and that's another thing.
So
to
you
consider.
can't even really count them as a 3-loss team.
While our official record stands at 9-3, I think the committee should be looking at South Carolina as a 10-2 ball club.
Yeah.
Right. If they go back and look at that LSU game,
Alabama is not.
There was literally 2 pick sixes and a 2-point conversion that got pulled off the board. Right. And again, even if you allowed one of the pick sixes, which was Emwanwari's,
South Carolina still wins.
Yep. But I don't think Indiana belongs in the playoff. I don't think Boise State belongs in the playoff. And if SMU loses to Clemson, I don't think they belong in the playoff.
I'll tell you what, if I'm Coach Beamer, come the end of the game, I'm preaching LSU. To get those kids to understand, you give everything until that clock ends.
So,
and how close things could be. I mean, just so many close times. I mean, really, Ole Miss was y'all's only true loss.
Yeah, that we had a bad game.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was at home.
That was a big blowout loss, right? But
27-3 or whatever it was.
Yeah. But everything else, I mean, South Carolina has played great football this year.
We've won 6 in a row.
And I think that they deserve to be in the playoffs. And I would honestly love it because I want a chance of revenge this year just to shut you up. I don't want to have to deal with this for a whole nother year.
You would love to get us in the
writing
playoff
letters
and try
to the
beat us.
college playoff system.
Yeah.
Please help a brother out.
We'll see tonight. It'll be interesting. And you know, if we don't make the playoff, which I think is likely, so be it. I think we've got I mean, we're going to be losing a lot of folks on defense, but I think Lenore Sellers is coming into his own. His brother just committed. I think we had a top 20 recruiting class.
His brother playing in the state championship next week?
I think so. Oh, speaking of.
Northwestern High School.
Yeah, let's talk about Northwestern.
Man, Finley Polk is a special.
Beating Gaffney on Friday night.
Yeah.
Last night.
He is a special player. I'm surprised. I know he's committed to Gardner-Webb. I'm just surprised that he committed so early to Gardner-Webb. But we've always had that problem. We've had some great quarterbacks come out of here. You know, Mason Rudolph was never offered by South Carolina or Clemson and ended up going to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
You know, and what was the guy's name? Justin, trying to remember his name. I think he's.
What position?
He was a quarterback at Northwestern, too.
Oh, okay.
He competed against Clowney and Gilmore, and he ended up getting, like, the Gatorade Player of the Year above Clowney. He was a quarterback at Northwestern. I just cannot think of his last name.
And Clemson or South Carolina didn't recruit him?
No, he ended up going to Tennessee. And then Mason Rudolph came after that. Now we've got.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Now we've got Finley Polk, which Finley Polk has been the starting quarterback since the 10th grade.
Oh, wow. And he's graduating spring.
Yes. And he has committed to Gardner-Webb, which I was surprised by. But, you know he's the one who lost to Lenore Sellers in the high school championship 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Lenore Sellers just ran all over Northwestern, but Northwestern was dominating everyone else.
Yeah. So in high school football, my alma mater, Summerville, Green Wave, beat the brakes off of Sumter. Hey, Speaker Smith, Summerville High School.
You're about to get demoted to the lowest committee of 3M.
Right. So Northwestern beat Gaffney.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find out if South Point won, but I can't get my WRHI app to work right now.
Well, Summerville goes on to play Dutch Fork And I think they're going to be underdogs in that one. Dutch Fork has an incredible team. We'll see what happens, though. That's why they play the game. I was talking to our friend Chris Miller, and he was saying how strong that Dutch Fork team is, and it's theirs to lose, right? And I said, hey, that's why they play the ball game. So,
yeah, that is the truth.
Everybody's got to play until they get popped in the mouth.
Mike Tyson, baby.
So Gaffney goes home.
Yep.
Sorry, Lawson.
Yeah.
In Northwestern.
Sorry, Dennis.
So is South Florence playing Northwestern
I'm trying
again?
to find out. I'm just not seeing updates right now.
Oh, wow.
I see the high school championship. Okay, 4A state. Okay, Northwestern beat Gaffney 58-40, and that's the 5A Division II upper state.
Okay.
The 4A upper state, South Point fell to Westside.
Oh, wow, really?
Yep. So let's see if it's showing the South Carolina State Championship. I got to look it up real quick.
So it's going to be Summerville's 5A, right? Or is it 4A Division I and 4A Division II now?
I don't know. I'm about to look it up real quick. So here is ticket information for the game. And of course, you got to subscribe. It's amazing you can't find anything anymore. Let's see if Greenville. Nope. Got to subscribe. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it will be Dutch Fork. No, Dutch Fork beat Spartanburg.
Yep. And so they're going to play Summerville.
So they're showing the results, but it's not showing who.
Let's just tell the results.
Okay.
Summerville beat Sumter.
So in the 5A Division I, Dutch Fork won in upper. So it's going to be Dutch Fork versus Summerville.
Yep.
Okay. In the 5A Division II, it will be Northwestern versus Irmo.
Irmo.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And they're going to be playing at South Carolina State next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They don't
go
Williams
to Billy
Bryce
Bryce
got too bougie to allow them to play there. Same thing with Clemson.
Huh.
Then you've got in the 4A upper state, you're going to have West Side versus South Florence. South Florence is who Sellers' brother plays for.
Yep. Yep, and he's committed. I think he's going to be like punt returner, kick returner, wide out.
3A will be Belton Honeypath versus Oceanside Collegiate.
Uh-oh. I'll take Oceanside in that one.
Ocean Seed's the number 2 seed, and Belton Honeypath is the number 2 seed, and both of them beat the number 1 seeds in the upper-lower championship.
What about Louisville?
Louisville lost.
Oh, did they?
Yep. And so did Fairfield Central. So Clinton beat Fairfield Central, and Barnwell beat Manning.
All right.
And then in the 1A, Abbeville beat Louisville, and then Cross beat Lakeview.
Well, there you go. For the 2 listeners out there, that is your high school, South Carolina high school playoff wrap-up.
Will Robbie be doing the
No, I don't think so. I think he just our colleague Robbie Robbins and friend, he is the voice of the Green Wave.
Yeah.
There at McKissick Stadium, so I think that's just for home games.
Does he have that Chris Miller voice?
What do you mean?
I mean, does he go, "It's the Green Wave"? Like, you know how the voice just changed?
Yeah.
Chris always has a different voice on the radio, it seemed like.
He's got that radio voice?
Yeah.
And then when
he's growing into it. Like
Yeah.
Manning, anytime you talk to him, it's always the radio voice, right?
Okay, gotcha.
But Chris is kind of growing into it. But at first, it was like Chris had his regular voice, and he had a radio voice. But now, as you talk to him, it's kind of like a radio voice.
Do you have a podcast voice and then you have a regular?
No, I don't think so.
No, I just talk the way I talk. Me too. So
I have people try to change it, but you know.
What do you think about the beer?
I like it a lot. It is actually very good. Not heavy. It's a great taste. It's something I could drink.
And it's
great for cool weather.
It's got a little bit of a spice,
Yeah.
like a.
It's
a
not
gingerbread
too
cookie
sweet,
or
not
something.
too sour.
No, not at all.
It's a good beer,
I think so too.
and I mean, it might be one of my favorites that we've had on here.
Man, I tell you. Yeah, so if you're looking for a good winter beer, go check out Sycamore Christmas Cookie. It's they call it a winter amber, but
I
guess
don't
that's a
taste the
spiced-
Christmas cookie, but I do taste a little bit like a.
I think it's like that gingerbread cookie.
Yeah,
that-
it tastes
that
like a
spice.
gingerbread kind of taste to it.
And you know, it's got just like a lot of these sort of
Tastes like
craft-
my mama's crock pot. You know how you burn the? Did your mama used to burn the scents in the crock pot? No, it's
I know my grandma didn't
it
call
wasn't
it that.
crock pot. I'm sorry, potpourri. That's what I'm saying. I'm getting it mixed up. Crack pipe.
So
I was trying to
Sycamore
think of potpourri.
Christmas cookie winter amber. It's a great beer and it's great can artwork. And go to Guppy's grandmama's house.
No crock pot was consumed during this podcast. That's horrible. This is where we need an edit feature at right here.
Woo! Thanks again for Comer Distributing for sponsoring this episode.
I promise I didn't
Although
have
Chip,
but one.
you may have
too.
regretted it. And good to be back from the holiday break. Thanks for listening, the two of y'all out there, and we'll see you next week.
Well, let's say Merry Christmas just in case we don't get a chance to get together
Come on, man.
before then.
No. I'll see you fireside next week.
Okay. I don't land back here until
This will be
Thursday.
the holiday
so.
tradition for the holiday.
Well, that
episode.
sounds good.
All right, man.
All right. Thank
Y'all
you.
have fun. Take care.
Okay, David.